What is it that makes one society more violent than another? And why specifically is America such a violent place? Now, the clue for why America is such a violent place, I think, can be found in sunny South Africa, and let me explain. When I grew up in South Africa in the 60s and 70s, the one thing I can remember is how active we were. We were playing from sunrise to sunset, and on our own, even 6, 7 years old, we were playing on our own in the hills, in the rivers, and so forth. And I can specifically recall on a couple of occasions when we lived in Katima Malilu, we had our favorite swimming spot in the Zambezi River. And sometimes when we got there, the crocodiles were basking in the sun on the riverbank. And then we would sort of turn around and decide, let's do something else. And then a few hours later, we will come back and then see, okay, the crocodiles are gone. And then we would swim there. But in any event, we were very active as children uh, until about 1976, when there was this momentous occasion in South Africa, because South Africa was one of the very last countries on earth that got television. And so I was in me and my peers, we were in a unique position that we experienced childhood before television and after television, because television came to South Africa when I was about 12 years old. Now, the most noticeable difference between the children before and after television was that children became way less active after television came to South Africa. But it was not the only influence of television. I think that television influenced the character of our society in quite a big way, and also I don't think in a positive way. Now, let me just try and describe what it was in South Africa before television came. Now, just remember, in the 70s, it was the height of apartheid, and the South African government, which was now the National Party, uh, fully supported by the mainstream Afrikaans churches in South Africa, they governed South Africa with an iron fist. Um, and they really had to do that because they thought it was a good idea to deny more than 90% of the population the vote, to deny about more than 90% just basic human rights. And we were very much a police state, and with petty apartheid, and also with very strict censorship laws. The National Party and these churches, they decided what you could read, what you could listen to, the films that you could watch, very strict. When television came to South Africa in 1976, it was actually the perfect opportunity to open the eyes of the public to a new world. But obviously, that is not what happened. It was not in the interest of the government at the time, and then also the churches, because it's just a fact that um, authoritarian governments and religion, what they have in common is that it cannot thrive, neither can thrive in an open and educated society. So I'm sure that the television bosses, which is now the National Party and these churches, they decided that let's keep the public uninformed. Let's keep them dumb. So what they decided was that they will concentrate on children programs, on news that they obviously control, sport, lots of sport, and then the rest was made up with mindless entertainment. Now, some local productions did provide this mindless entertainment, but obviously it's time consuming and costly to make these productions, and they had to fill in the time, so they had to import some of the mindless entertainment. And what they did, obviously, where better to find mindless entertainment than America. So then they imported all these old American productions, and we were really bombarded with American television program content. So much so that after a few years, I think it's fair to say that South Africans were Americanized. And I don't believe it was a good thing, because the problem with mindless entertainment is that it gets very old very quickly. So what you need to do to spruce it up is then to bring in things like car chases, or mindless violence, unnecessary violence, and then obviously you, to keep viewer attention, you need to up the ante every time. You know, it has to be a better car chase, more violence. So um, the result was in the 70s that us South Africans, being protected with all these censorship laws and so on, we were quite a naive society. And suddenly we were bombarded with these mindless and violent American programs, and it was quite a shock to the system. And we were actually in a unique position where we went from no television at all to suddenly having all this mindless violence and mindless entertainment programs from America. So it was quite clear to all of us that surely this is not going to end well, and I'm sure that South Africa still is one of the most violent countries on earth, and I have the idea that the decision that the television bosses made in 1976 to import all these American programs, that played a big role in our violent culture in South Africa. Obviously not the only one, but a big role. And it was a huge mistake in my view. It would have been better if our television bosses imported maybe television content that tried to educate and entertain in equal measure, and perhaps if they imported these programs from all over the world, so that we didn't get too much of one particular society. Um, so that is my take on America's violence. I think that one of the main driving forces is this mindless entertainment of theirs, with all the unnecessary violence in it. Obviously, they have the further problem of no gun control, or this obsession with guns that I don't understand, but that surely also plays a role. Um, so yes, that is my take on it. Mindless TV, mindless television equals unnecessary violence.